You know, and
My name is Mike Feniger, P-H-E-N-E-G-E-R, and I'll give you a card.
okay.
But I am the president of the ACLU of Florida, and previously I've been on the national board of the ACLU and the National Executive Committee, and I've been on the state board for a number of years. But what I used to do in life is I'm a retired Army colonel. I spent
heard
30
you say
years
that.
doing intel and special ops for the Army, and I used to be the director of intelligence for U.S. Special Operations Command out at MacDill Air Force Base. That's what I did in my previous life.
You got a great background, sir.
And then I worked at the University of South Florida for about 10 years after I retired, and now I kind of do civil liberties kinds of stuff, sort of semi-full-time. Happened to be free white 21, old American, you know, things like that, retired Army colonel. You don't have to worry about someone stamping on your rights, but there are huge numbers of other people whose rights get violated all the time. And so we go after that in several different ways. One, we go into public education, which is what we have done an awful lot. For example, when the Republican convention here, we had 3 major forums on the rights of demonstrators. Nobody was going to interfere with the Republicans' right to go ahead and say what they had to say here, but when their opposition comes in, that becomes a major issue. And the ACLU of Carolina did the same thing up there. When the Democrats came to town, there were a lot of demonstrators that came in to demonstrate against the DNC as well as here. And I'll show you a copy of a newspaper that we published here that talks about the rights of demonstrators. We handed out about 10,000 of them to groups that came in to demonstrate and to let them know what their rights are. And we were prepared also to take legal action. We have a state legal director, and we have 16 active chapters around the states. They all have legal panels, and we take some cases. We're not a law firm. We don't take cases, just any case that comes around. But what we do is we go ahead and we try to find cases that are very specific in terms of defending the Bill of Rights. But we are also picky because we want the right client and we want the right facts and circumstances, because bad cases make bad law.
Yeah.
And our objective is to make good law and get good court precedents in what we're doing. So we were prepared. We've done cases to sue in favor of people who wanted to establish gay and lesbian rights organizations in schools, for example, the Gay Straight Alliances.
Yeah.
We had
a
lawsuit against the people up at Santa Rosa County who decided that they would like to have Sunday school in public schools. And the integration of religion into the public schools up there was just so great that we sued the county and the county school system. And so we have all of these things going all the time, and we have a very extensive legal document. We've sued the state several times on the requirement for suspicionless urinalysis testing of people on welfare or of state employees, and we've won those. So this is the kind of thing we do in the legal. We also do public education. The Know Your Rights thing that we put out there, and we distributed that on the street. You can have these, that's not a problem.
Where do you hand these out on the streets?
We were out there with the demonstrators in the demonstrations. We worked with the groups that came to town to demonstrate, and we managed to have them have access to those things before their people actually went out on the street to demonstrate. So we were out there every day. During the convention, we rented a 25-foot travel trailer. We parked it downtown on the official parade route for demonstrations and so forth, and we operated out of there, to do the rights of demonstrators. But before that, we had meetings with the city attorney, with the chief of police, with members of the city council. We talked to them about the ordinances that they passed that were supposed to govern the rights of demonstrators. Did the same thing over in St. Petersburg.
Yes, sir.
We had extensive meetings with them. We had public forums with the police and with the county officials and so forth being involved. The public defender was there. We worked with the public defender to make sure that anybody who got arrested in town would basically get first appearance representation. County Public Defender has about 120 attorneys, and they were all standing by because the history of these things shows that things didn't work very well. But we also worked to try to get the police to take a very kind of lenient view of how they handle demonstrators, and in the event, we had exactly 2 people arrested during the RNC in Tampa.
Wow. I have one last question for you. What, I mean, just for the camera's purposes,
Sure.
what is your name and what is your title to the ACLU?
Well, in the long run, I understand that there are people out there who don't know what they're doing when they vote. A lot of them have a lot of money, some of them don't have any money.
Thank you,
but
sir.
generally speaking, I think we work better when we work with the idea that there is a kind of a constructive wisdom in the group of people. They may go off to one side one time, they may go off to another side, but generally speaking, I would rather have the country in the hands of the great majority of people rather than in the hands of elites with special interests.
Yes, sir.
And that Democratic elites, Republican elites, doesn't make any difference. You might not know it from anything I had to say, but I've been a registered Republican since 1962 or so.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Wow.
Which gives you an idea about how old I am. Kind of like older than dirt. But this is one of the things I do. I do a lot of speaking, a lot of teaching, a lot of other kinds of things on civil liberties work in the state of Florida and kind of around the country. And been involved in works in the Patriot Act. I've been an expert witness in some of our areas, some of our lawsuits where you have a nexus between civil liberties and national security issues, things like that. So.
All right, well, thank you for your time, sir.
My name is Stephen W. Philippi, or Steve Philippi, and I'm the chairperson of the Greater Tampa chapter of the ACLU of Florida, which includes the 5 counties in this area. 5 counties include Hillsborough, Pasco, Polk, Hernando, and Sumter. Okay?
Okay.
Not Pinellas.
Not Pinellas.
Not Pinellas.
Oh,
Pinellas
okay.
has its own chapter, and Sarasota has its own chapter.
Okay, good to know.
So those are different chapters. I was previously on the board with Mike. I was the vice president of the ACLU of Florida for about 4 years. So I've
That's
been there. I've
interesting.
served my time already, and now I'm reducing the amount of work that I do. And one of the things that funds the ACLU is attorneys like my wife who cannot or forbidden by their practice from doing what's called pro bono can contribute to the ACLU of Florida, and by their contribution they get their pro bono points with the local bar, with actually the State Bar Association. So that's one of the funders of the ACLU. Other funders, of course, are lots of people, individual contributors like myself, who fortunate enough to be able to have sufficient resources to contribute money. So again, there's a staff here, okay, but none of us in the room were part of that staff. Okay, we are volunteers and supporters of the ACLU.
I have one more question. Since we're going to be presenting to an audience of college students and everything like that, what cases have you guys taken up, or what things have you done towards education or public education to where it benefits people like college students?
I don't know. We've done a lot of things over time, but I can't cite anything specific, because I'm not an attorney, and therefore I don't keep track of our cases as well as as the legal panel guys, where you had one guy on the legal panel, he is an attorney, and I'm not, so I don't know what cases we took. I know we've done a lot of work.
Yeah, I saw you guys did a lot with voting rights and everything,
Yeah.
so that was very informative. That's what we were discussing before this meeting. We were going over a
Right.
game plan of how we would present this information based on the internet website that you guys have and the information you have. And things like voting is a huge thing that we want to present to them, because we just voted, and all the issues that we discussed here were that a lot of these students were not informed. A lot of them just went in there just to vote. And I believe
In particular, we're actually more, in terms of legal cases, we're actually spending more legal time on K through 12, in particular high school. For example, I'll cite some specific things. You were asking for college students. I don't know, college students.
Oh, so you do like public education for
Public
like high
education.
school and
Well,
all that?
The past year, we were involved in a number of gay-straight alliances. There are certain school systems that try to prevent those from existing, okay? And we help them know that the Constitution protects students. So they can prevent them if they have no clubs, or if they have certain kinds of, you can't prevent specific free speech. And that would be an organization or a group that's defended by the Constitution. That's a specific kind of free speech. So they can do it, but they have to be very draconian about how they do it. So you can't prevent a specific kind of a speech. So you can say, well, you can't have any clubs. That's the way you can do it. Okay, that works. Yeah. You can have something that sends all political kinds of organizations. But again, it's not political, so that didn't work. I don't think that worked. But anyway, so we've successfully won court cases in school systems. And we just got through doing something in Santa Rosa County, 2 or 3 things that they were, every time that you in a public education environment, in a required assembly like a graduation or something that it's not just a religious thing, that they have a prayer, which was given by administrators. They were doing that in the schools in Santa Rosa County. The only fortunate thing is, and it was all born again Christian Baptist kind of stuff. Unfortunately, there were Jewish people there, there were Muslim people there were agnostics there. So we found a bunch of people and we sued them, and we won. And now they paid us. That's an additional source of income from Santa Rosa County. So they won, we won. They paid our legal fees. They also paid, various other costs and expenses. Because again, when you defend the Constitution, and you win, okay, that means that other side was against the Constitution, right? And therefore, they are, even though they're quote a school district, that school board was doing something that was against the Constitution of the United States, okay? So when we win, we're entitled to attorney's fees and costs, right?
Yes,
so
sir.
they help fund it. One of the reasons we have a reasonably large, war chest here in this chapter is that we beat the Hillsborough County Commission out of umpteen thousands of dollars because they tried to close down that Tampa Bay cable network. Because they didn't like what it was saying. They didn't like the speech it was doing. Okay, that's free speech. They can't close it down for that. Okay, so we won that case too, and again, attorneys' fees and costs. Okay, so that's part of how we fund the local chapter and the state organizations. We defend the Constitution. If you in fact win those cases, then you get attorney's fees and costs. Sometimes, most of the time. So again, that's all legal. I'm not an attorney. No, first of all, we've already won that.
Right.
That's done. Okay.
Right.
The practical thing is what they did was we did go to court and prevent. You notice it's 5, 6, and 8. 7 was eliminated by the ACLU and our partners at the Supreme Court of Florida. Okay. So therefore, what the legislature cleverly did, as opposed to trying to come up with a summary that they knew might be rejected, any summary, by the court that they wanted to, they just put the whole amendment on the ballot. That's the reason the ballot was 2 pages back to 4 pages long. If you put the whole amendment, then the courts can't, they can't eliminate it. So they printed the entire amendment on the ballot and made everybody pretend like they were reading that, okay? So that's what they did, and that's how the legislature got around it. So the legislature, again, we are interested only in civil liberties, okay, and the civil liberties implications. So the only ones we went against are those that our members and the national organization and the state organization agreed were civil liberties issues. The others were policy issues. We focus on civil liberties issues. Right.